What's up, YouTube? It's Friday, October 19th. You guys wanted to hear my theory about why the game is the way it is today. Quite simply, it's to give the inexperienced player the opportunity to win against a much more skilled and experienced player. Simple as that. You can argue, you can thumbs down, say whatever the fuck you want. That's what it is. That's what Konami has recognized, hands down. If you remember a couple months ago on my channel, and then many other people were, just glorifying GOAT control and the GOAT format. 2005 I guess it was April 2005 back at that time, formats. And that was because that's when skill mattered. Back then, you had to work insanely hard to put more than one monster on a board at a time. And once you invested that monster, unless it was a floater to some degree, you protected that monster. Or you set it up such that your opponent would have to commit a bigger monster to kill your monster, and then you could follow up with a monster to kill theirs, and then protect your bigger monster. That kind of thing. You actually had time to think ahead your turns and your plays, 10 turns in advance. You knew that, okay, I have this pot of greed and this graceful charity, but I'm going to hold on to my graceful charity and my pot of greed, I'm going to hold on to my graceful charity and my delinquent duo to get the max value. I don't want to play this graceful charity or this delinquent duo right now because my opponent still has 5 cards. I haven't seen Sinister Serpent yet, and I need to get the most bang for my buck. I'm going to set this Apprentice Magician, hope he runs over it, and then I'll get my Magician of Faith, and then I'll play all my power spells, then flip my Faith, and depending on the game state, I'll either get my charity back or I'll get my duo back and further wreck my opponent. You know what I'm saying? So that might sound like a simple play today, but back then that was a play that, only like the most advanced players were doing. Because, it was a total mind fuck on your opponent. And it was like such a huge advantage play. And it would destroy inexperienced players. And they could never understand why they're sitting across from a player, they're sitting at their first Shonen Jump. And they're facing somebody from Team Out Phase or Comic Odyssey or any of the other big teams from back during the Shonen Jump days. And they're looking at their opponent. The opponent has 6 cards in hand, 2 back row, 3 monsters on the field, and they have 1 card. And they're like, fuck, why does he have so much advantage on me? Well, it was skill. It was learning to conserve your cards, reading your opponent. And, with the card pool the way it was, you knew that they had 1 out. Their only out to their board was Blackluster Soldier. And, the experienced player would hold on to their Blackluster Soldier because it was the trump card. And whoever played the Blackluster Soldier last won the game. So if your only out was Blackluster Soldier and your opponent had 6 cards in hand and a couple monsters on board and maybe a couple of back row, top deck and a Blackluster Soldier wasn't doing you shit. Because maybe you could take out 2, but you had to get past those 2 back row that he had if you double attacked. And then maybe he had his Blackluster Soldier waiting in the wings, waiting for you to drop yours because he didn't quite have game yet, and there was no reason to put his soldier out there recklessly. So let's fast forward a little bit. Now that we know how the game was, how skill mattered, why the same players always top-8'd the Shonen Jumps, Konami saw that and was like, okay, we can never grow. We cannot attract new players if they know for a fact if they're sitting across from a skilled, experienced duelist, they would have no chance in hell. There has to be a way where we can put some sack factor into the game. Now, that's going to be aside from the Reasoning Gate decks that were out there. Because, I love that shit. I love Reasoning Gate back in the day. I still do. But they wanted a consistent sack factor. Enter Cybernetic Revolution. Cybernetic Revolution introduced a card that made Vampire Lord, Tsukiyomi, and Air Knight obsolete. That card was Cyber Dragon. Because where at first you were, hard pressed to put a big monster on the board without setting it up, or it was like next to impossible to swarm the board unless you had like the nuts some kind of way with the premature burial and call the haunted and just set it up perfectly. You could now go special Cyber Dragon, normal summon breaker, do stuff, or special Cyber Dragon, normal Spirit Reaper, do some stuff. There was a deck back then called Boom Headshot. I do not remember who created the deck. 3 Cyber Dragon, 3 DD Assailant, 3 Spirit Reaper, 3 Smashing Ground. That deck was beast. It totally took advantage of the fact that you now could mini swarm every turn. You Cyber Dragon, DD Assailant take their big monster out. Cyber Dragon swing direct for 21. Or Cyber Dragon run over their monster, Reaper poke a card at their hand. If they had just one monster, no back row, oh my god. Cyber Dragon Reaper, Smashing Ground, swing for 24, take a card out of their hand. I mean, that was insane advantage back then. And that's when you got to see more experience or less experienced players starting to win, because now they could draw Cyber Dragon and get past their opponents. Maybe they had a Blade Knight. 1600 attack was hot shit. And if they only had one card in hand, it was 2000. So they had this 2000 Blade Knight, and you're like, oh shit, Cyber Dragon. Oh, I've been holding on to this Spirit Reaper because I didn't want him to cross it out. Honk, Cyber Dragon, Spirit Reaper, do stuff. I mean, that was insane, right? And Konami saw this, and they're like, oh, fuck. I think we've hit jackpot. Look at Cybernetic Revolution blowing off the shelves. Oh, my God, the secondary market, Cyber Dragon, is $50+ for cardboard. Are you serious? And it's at 3. We're making bank. Let's develop more archetypes, and let's develop more cards that just do insane, unfair, stupid shit. So now we have 6 Samurais. We have Gladiator Beasts, Chaos Return. We had Return from Different Dimension. Nobody played until Dark Magician, or until after Dark Arm Return, or until BLS got banned. Then all of a sudden we had Chaos Return, triple Cyber Dragon, triple Chaos Sorcerer. So you had a really good light and dark, because all the best monsters today and then were light and dark. And so then you had your 3 Return from Different Dimension, and that deck was just like spammy as hell with bringing back your Chaos Sorcerers and bringing back all your cards removed from play, like your Zaborg and your Kaiku. Special summon your Chaos Sorcerer, flip return, and then instantly you had huge damage on the board. And in following formats, Konami just made more decks and mechanics to allow that type of thing. We had Dark Arm Return, special summon from your hand, Dark Arm, if you have enough darks. And then we had Light Sworn with Big JD. And then, on and on and on, up to the Synchro era. And today, there's decks that swarm and spam. And then Konami's like, well, shit, in addition to all that, let's bring back all these other sack factor cards, because it's not fair that these inexperienced players are still getting devastated by these experienced players during Teledad. Because you remember Teledad was fucking tier 0. And inexperienced players were getting their asses kicked because it had a lot of the similarities to Go format, where whoever played their Solemn Judgment or dropped their Dark Arm Dragon last still won matches. So Konami was like, well, let's bring back, Dark Hole, because it's not fair that our new customers can't win because their opponent set up this devastating board. We need to give them a card that they can top deck to eliminate the board that the experienced player, worked to build. You see what I'm saying? So that's my theory. I've spoken for almost 10 minutes on it. I've tried to hold back a lot of things, because if you guys want to hear more about this or others, just comment down below, and I'll be more than happy to talk about that shit, because I can talk and talk and talk and talk. That's one of the advantages or disadvantages of getting old, maybe. I don't know. It's Dubkdad and I'm out.